With the Chicago Bears squaring off against the Washington Commanders on Monday Night Football, now is a good time to check in on the quarterback comparisons between Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels, but also the other quarterbacks from that 2024 draft class that everybody was ready to put ahead of Caleb Williams last year.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1, and you can follow the podcast at Locked On Bears on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like the players, Mazda sweats every details because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. On the show today, I want to put Caleb Williams head-to-head with the other quarterbacks in his draft class because everyone was so quick to judge these guys as rookies, and already now 6 weeks into their second seasons, a lot has changed for everyone involved. And the order we stacked these quarterbacks last season is not the order we would stack them right now, and Caleb Williams has really climbed his way up in a way to feel like he's back in the conversation as the best of this group so far this season. But we'll take a look at mainly the big three of Jayden Daniels, Bo Nix, and Drake Maye, but we'll mention Michael Penix and J.J. McCarthy in there as well as fellow top picks from that draft class, but I think there really is a big three at the top. And we have to start with Jayden Daniels, given the Monday Night Football matchup here. And it's a little bit tricky because Jayden Daniels has missed now, 3 games due to injury with them. He played the first 3 games, was the Commanders game against the Giants, Packers, and Chargers, but then has not been able to really missed 3 games in there and then came back. I should play the first 2 games, then played last week against the Chargers, but missed 3 games within there to get back to where we are now. And so it's not a full one-to-one comparison of Caleb's played more games, but then Caleb had the bye week. And so you can't just do a side-by-side full stat comparison because, Caleb Williams has thrown for more yards and touchdowns and because he's played more football games. But you can clearly see from Jayden Daniels that he has not been as stellar excellent this season as he was last year. That doesn't mean Jayden Daniels has been bad this year or anything close to a bad quarterback, but in terms of expectations, he was blowing everything out of the water last season and looked like, MVP candidate, offensive rookie of the year player, right? That's the kind of season he put up last year. So it was what's he going to do in year 2? And lo and behold, it's hard to play at that super elite level every single season. And he has come back down to earth a little bit more. Again, it's early and it's a 3-game sample size. So it's not a big picture evaluation of where he is as a quarterback. But when you stack it up next to Caleb Williams, at least, the numbers all point to Caleb Williams' side. You look, Caleb Williams has the higher completion percentage at 62% to Jayden Daniels' 59%. Caleb Williams averages more yards per pass attempt, 7.1 to 6.8 for Daniels. Williams averages more yards per game, 231 to 221. Averages a higher touchdown percentage in terms of what percentage of his throws end in touchdowns, because again, it's not really a fair comparison to do 3 games versus 4, but Caleb Williams is throwing touchdowns at a higher rate than Jayden Daniels so far this season. The one thing Jayden Daniels has done that Caleb Williams has not done is he has yet to throw an interception in 3 games. And Caleb has one through the first couple of games? No, two interceptions, one on the batted pass from Max Crosby. And so across the board, in all the main quarterback stats, you'll see Caleb is outproducing Jayden Daniels. That I don't like to just lean on stats purely to say, hey, the player with the more yards or whatever is therefore the better quarterback. But I do think you look at the situations that these guys are in, and Jayden Daniels is operating with the number 1 rushing attack in the NFL and a top 10 defense as well in terms of points allowed this season. He has had a really solid supporting cast. And some of that is to say then they haven't needed him to throw as much, and that's part of why these numbers are down. And some of that is to say, like, he's also had an easier path towards higher production. Like, a good running game isn't why his completion percentage is so low or his yards per pass attempt are so low. A good running game could bring down his yards per game if he just isn't attempting as many passes, and if they're handing the ball off on the goal line, that can bring his touchdown numbers down. But I think generally we've seen a lesser version of Jayden Daniels, despite not really having a lesser version of the team around him. I understand that, their wide receiver Terry McLaurin's been hurt a bit this season. Like, yes, they've had things that have gone wrong for them in Washington, but not nearly as many things that have gone wrong for them compared to what the Bears have had gone wrong for them around Caleb Williams so far through these games. And it's not like, oh, Caleb has been playing a bunch of bad defenses and Jayden has been playing a bunch of good defenses. Like, Jayden played the New York Giants in week 1. They played the Packers in week 2, and that hasn't necessarily been a great defense so far this season. Maybe a little bit more of a test with the Chargers in his last game last week, although that Chargers defense is a lot more banged up too, right? So my point here is not to say like, hey, in this one-to-one comparison, this player is clearly head and shoulders better than the other. The point being, everyone wrote off Caleb Williams last season and crowned Jayden Daniels as the next great quarterback, the next Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. And it's a good reminder of like, hey, yeah, he absolutely had a great rookie season, but we can't judge quarterbacks off of one rookie season, one great year or one disappointing year in the case of Caleb Williams. Like, there's a lot of ball game left in their careers, a lot of season left, even in year 2, because we might see as this year goes on, Jayden Daniels really hits his stride as he comes back from injury and settles in a little bit more as the season goes on. I mean, they get to play the Cowboys after the Bears too, and that should be an easy opportunity for yards. And likewise, Caleb will have ups and downs over the course of his season as well. But it just feels to me like whatever gap there had been between these two quarterbacks last year has shrunken, if not completely vanished at this point. I think the Commanders are still the better football team, and so Daniels is being put in some better positions, and at times I find myself feeling like that makes what Caleb does more impressive when he has less support and less help. But I'm not here to make definitive, declarative statements about any quarterbacks a year and 4 games or so through their young careers, because as this goes on, we're going to see all of these quarterbacks involved in this draft class move up and down. That's going to be the fun thing to watch as these guys go back and forth, because like last season, a big part of the criticism or controversy is like, oh, not only is Caleb Williams worse than Jayden Daniels, quote unquote, but also he's worse than Bo Nix, because Bo Nix goes to the playoffs and Bo Nix has a really good season and Bo Nix is ahead of him in the offensive rookie of the year ratings. And again, like this season, I'm not sure that Bo Nix has taken that big next step forward. And yet, the other quarterback that was conveniently left out of that conversation, Drake Maye, everyone was like, oh, we'll just be patient with Drake Maye. No need to be critical of him in New England for some reason. Now, all of a sudden, he is emerging as a better option here. And we can't forget about Michael Penix and J.J. McCarthy, although it does feel like those two guys are a little bit of a step down, especially J.J. We've seen play like, one game against the Bears and a little bit more, and that's about it. So I'm not really here to put any kind of evaluation on J.J. McCarthy, but I do want to dive a little bit deeper into what we're seeing from Bo Nix this season compared to last season and what that says about where he stacks up with Caleb and Jayden Daniels in this 2024 draft class next on Locked On Bears. The Locked On Bears podcast is brought to you by Mizzen and Main. You know the saying, look good, feel good. The problem is that most dress clothes only check one of those boxes. They look sharp, but they feel stiff, hot, and just high maintenance. But that's why there's Mizzen and Main, because Mizzen and Main makes classic menswear with performance fabrics, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel comfortable. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they've perfected it ever since. They're stretchy, they're moisture wicking, wrinkle resistant, and machine washable. So no need to iron, no need to dry clean. You can go from the office to dinner or even out on the golf course and still feel comfortable all day. It's got the feel of athletic wear, but the look of professional menswear. Right now, Mizzen and Main is offering our listeners 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com with our promo code LOCKEDONNFL20. That's Mizzen, spelled M-I-Z-Z-E-N, and Main, M-A-I-N.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL20 for 20% off. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Main stores in select states. The Locked On Bears podcast is also brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep moving the game forward. The Bears, on a bye week, didn't have that in-game moment to move the game forward, but we certainly saw the team move forward with what feels like a pretty monumental shift of Braxton Jones being benched after more than 3 full seasons as a starter, as a 5th-round pick, benched for Theo Bennett, officially confirmed by Ben Johnson this week, a former undrafted rookie free agent set to make his first start at left tackle. And it represents not only a feeling of like not good enough from the offensive line, a need for change and accountability, but also this broader shift of, hey, in Ben Johnson's culture, if you come in and work hard and do everything they say and improve, you're going to get the opportunity. Whether you're a draft pick or an undrafted guy from Canada, brought in by the previous regime, Theo Bennett earned his way up, and that sends a message to the rest of the roster in the locker room that, hey, it doesn't matter what your pedigree is, you have an opportunity in this meritocracy, in this locker room. And see, when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda. Move and be moved. So Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams, I think, are going to be the two that are compared the most to each other as number 1 and number 2 overall picks. But over the course of their collective rookie seasons, the other name that jumped into that conversation of who's the best quarterback from 2024 ended up being Bo Nix. And that was a surprise given he was, the 12th overall pick in that draft. That would make him the 5th or 6th quarterback drafted here. It's hard to do the counting off the top of my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th quarterback taken in his draft class. And he did lead them all in passing yards and passing touchdowns, technically. I mean, in some ways you could say he was, quote unquote, the best of the quarterbacks last year. I mean, Jayden Daniels won Offensive Rookie of the Year, and I think ultimately that's probably who was the best of the young quarterbacks. But Bo Nix absolutely was right there in that conversation and remains right there in that conversation of quality quarterbacks from that draft class. And it is like, okay, is it Jayden? Is it Bo? Is it Caleb? Or is it Drake Maye? We'll get to him in a moment here. But I also think Bo Nix this season has quietly, and even more quietly than Jayden Daniels, I think, had a lesser year. I mean, he's still over 1,000 yards and has 8 touchdowns this season, but he is not playing nearly as well this season. It has been a more significant drop-off. But I think the Broncos as a team have continued to improve so that we haven't noticed it as much when they have the number 2 defense in the NFL in points and the number 5 defense in the NFL in yards. And they have a top 5 rushing attack on offense. So they're still top 10 in yards. But they're kind of quietly 18th in scoring and about middle of the pack in terms of passing metrics this season. And Bo Nix has a lot to do with that. He is not having as sharp of a season as we saw last year. And that's okay, right? And that doesn't make Bo Nix a bad quarterback now, or all of a sudden, a bust or something that's going to ruin the season for the Denver Broncos. But again, I think it changes the quarterback perception in this conversation here. Because like you compare what Caleb Williams and Bo Nix are doing this season, and again, like Bo Nix does have the higher completion percentage at just about 65 to Caleb Williams' 62, but Caleb Williams has higher yards per pass attempt, yards per game, touchdown percentage, and Caleb Williams has a lower interception percentage. Like across the board on the per game stats, because again, we got Bo Nix has now played 5 games, Caleb's played 4, Jayden Daniels has played 3, so you can't just do the raw numbers, because Bo Nix has more passing yards and passing touchdowns because he's played an extra game than Caleb Williams. But on a per throw and per game basis here, we are still seeing Caleb Williams largely outproducing his contemporary here. Like you look at some of the more, like the PFF stats and the PFF grades. Certainly Caleb is higher graded than Bo Nix this season, but in the stats side too, Caleb has more of the big time throws and fewer of the turnover worthy throws. And Caleb has a deeper average depth of target. And Caleb Williams isn't taking sacks at nearly as high of a rate as he used to, despite still holding onto the ball longer than some of these other quarterbacks. Like he is finding a way to show improvement in all of these different ways that Bo Nix has not. And some of that's the curse of like, hey, when you have a really good first season, it's hard to look better in year two. You're more likely to regress down a little bit. Whereas when Caleb has a less good first season, we'll say, it's a lot easier for him to look better because he's starting from a lower starting point here. But I think it's very clearly a more noticeable decline in Bo Nix. Like when you really like sit and watch them. Like I don't know that nationally it's had that same perception because the Broncos are winning, because he's still got a 2-to-1 turnover to or touchdown to interception ratio here. Like he's not losing games for them. He's not like a quote unquote problem, but he isn't nearly as sharp as he was before. They've just been able to kind of overcome that in Denver. And now all of a sudden, like it brings him back down to earth a little bit more as a guy who's maybe a little bit more reckless than some of the other quarterbacks, led of this draft class, led them in interceptions last season and currently leads them in interceptions among that group right now. He also has, I think, the second most pass attempts of the group behind Spencer Rattler. So percentages are a real thing here. But I just think Denver Broncos fans are kind of waiting for Bo Nix to show them more. They're at this stage right now where they're like, listen, this is a playoff caliber team and they're going to get there, but it's going to come on to Bo Nix's shoulders to take them from, the divisional round team to a AFC championship game, or they want to be a potential Super Bowl contending team with Sean Payton right now in year two. And so much of that feels like it's going to fall on, well, how good is Bo Nix? Because if Bo Nix is good, yeah, they'll get to the second round of the playoffs for sure. Like that's a good team with a good quarterback. They're right there. But they'll need Bo Nix to be great if you're going to beat Josh Allen in the AFC championship game, if you're going to beat Patrick Mahomes in the AFC championship game, or if you're going to face them in the divisional round, or whoever it ends up being in their potential playoff path here. And so I think it's a very different situation from where Caleb Williams is, where the improvement has been great and the rest of the team hasn't been there to sort of pick up their end of the slack. And I again come back to what we talked about with Jayden, where it's like Caleb's putting up better numbers without having a great defense or a great running game. And Bo Nix is putting up, we can even just call them similar numbers to Caleb Williams, although you can point to the touchdowns, interceptions, and certainly some of the yardage things being a little bit lower, but nonetheless, with a top 5 defense, with a top 5 running game. And like he still isn't as good as he was last year, and maybe as good as the Broncos want him to be. And I think for both of these two quarterbacks, Daniels and Bo Nix, I kind of get the feeling that we talked about a little bit last year, where it's like, if you just swapped teams for the two quarterbacks, I think the same was true last year in Washington and Denver. Like, if you had put Caleb in Washington last year, he probably would have put up Jayden Daniels type numbers. If you had put Caleb in Denver last year, he probably would have put up Bo Nix type numbers. And if you put Bo Nix in Chicago, he's probably putting up Caleb numbers. If you put Jayden Daniels in Chicago, it's probably putting up Caleb Williams numbers. Like it feels like, especially this early in their young quarterback careers, so much more about their situation, especially their rookie seasons. Now in year two, you're seeing Caleb Williams, I think, play above his supporting cast. And I think you're seeing Bo Nix play a little below his supporting cast, and Jayden Daniels at or a little below their supporting casts right now. And again, I want to reemphasize, this is 3, 4, 5 games of the season for these quarterbacks, not definitive evaluations of where they're going to be by week 18 or when the playoffs come around or what they are for their careers. But I just think it's interesting to follow how much movement there have been among these quarterbacks, especially because I think right now the quarterback of this draft class that's playing the best football is Drake Maye with the New England Patriots. Like, he is, again, almost kind of quietly emerged as a guy who's like, oh no, he's really good. And it goes to show how we can't get too caught up in any given moment of how these quarterbacks are playing, because there's going to be more of these ups and downs. I want to go through what Drake Maye has been able to do so far in New England and why I think it's maybe the most impressive, certainly compared to what we've seen from Bo Nix and Jayden Daniels, next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. We're talking over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Supply House has real-time inventory and honest lead times that keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer, and their parts finder tool and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Join their free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use our promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. The Locked On Bears podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season is in full swing, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Because right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, pick a bet, put down just $5, and if it hits, not only do you get the winnings from your $5 bet, but you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You can already bet ahead on next week's Saints-Bears game, where the Bears are opening at 5.5-point favorites on FanDuel Sportsbook. The money line is Bears minus 260, and the over-under is set at 45.5 points. So a $5 bet on any of those, or any other game, any other prop bet, any other sport, baseball playoffs, anyone, and you're going to get $300 in bonus bets in addition to the winnings from your $5 bet. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today to get started. Somehow, some way, Drake Maye went from like last place in this quarterback race, or at least second to last place, ahead of J.J. McCarthy, I guess, to first place, or like presumably first place. And it's just kind of funny because this conversation, they moved the goalpost, right? And it's like last year it was like, oh, Bears got the wrong quarterback. They should have taken Jayden Daniels over Caleb Williams. And now people are saying, oh, Bears took the wrong quarterback. They should have taken Drake Maye over Caleb Williams. It's like, oh, wait a minute. You were saying last year it was Daniels. No, you weren't. Last year you weren't saying Drake Maye was the quarterback you should take. And now you're saying Drake Maye because, of course, it's just, well, who's the hot quarterback now? Oh, you should have taken him, when it's like Caleb Williams was always the consensus number one overall pick quarterback. And the results have largely been based on the supporting cast. But Drake Maye is an interesting comparison here because he also doesn't have the supporting cast that would be ideal for a young quarterback. You know, this has not been a built-out stellar Patriots team, although I think they're playing above their talent level right now. I mean, they beat the Buffalo Bills last week. Of course, they creamed the Saints on Sunday, but like 2 weeks ago, they beat that Buffalo Bills team that everyone was all over. And as a result, we've seen the Patriots, climb up to top 10 in points allowed, and they're 12th in points scored. Like there's some real progress being made there, and I think they're a team that on paper, you look at that roster and you go, oof, they don't have a lot of help for Drake Maye over there. Like the receiver talent is certainly lacking. It's Stephon Diggs, yes, an old Stephon Diggs, but then like Mac Hollins and Kayshon Boutte and I guess the old tight ends Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, like it's not that they're bare in the cupboards, but it's like not elite skill position players, and they haven't been able to run the ball well at all this season in New England. They're 28th in yards per carry and 27th in total rushing. I think their offensive line has played pretty well with some of the young guys they've invested in there, but even Drake Maye is still taking a lot of sacks, and he's got a little bit of the Caleb Williams thing where he's letting too many pressure plays turn into sacks. That's kind of been his one biggest flaw so far, because a lot of the rest of the way you look at it, he's playing some good football right now. Like when you put the head-to-head stats, he's outpacing Caleb Williams in pretty much everything. He's a lot higher completion percentage, higher yards per pass attempt, more yards per game. Doesn't quite have the same touchdown percentage as Caleb Williams has. He's got 7 to Caleb Williams' 8, but like other than that, he's taking good care of the football. He's making big throws downfield. He's doing everything that he's had some drop passes that he's been able to overcome, and it's been really impressive. Like I can't sit here and say like, oh, Caleb Williams has been clearly, definitively better than Drake Maye this season. I think all these guys have all been, not all that far apart in general in terms of what we've been seeing from them. But it's just so striking to see Drake Maye go from last year really an afterthought in this quarterback conversation to all of a sudden really temporarily at the front of the line. We'll say, can we agree there? Like we're not crowning him the next great quarterback from this draft class, but like right now, over the last handful of games, the first 5 games of the season, like he's the guy you like right now. I mean, last year he threw for 2,000 yards and 15 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, and it was like, yeah, this is tough sledding for Drake Maye over there in New England. And now it doesn't feel like the team's gotten that much better, but he's just gotten so much better. And you feel like, wow, this is a quarterback who is definitely on the ascent in some of the same ways that Caleb Williams is on the ascent. And I'm really curious to see then how that shapes this quarterback conversation moving forward, because Daniels is always going to be the one who has the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. But we've seen many a times a young player get Offensive Rookie of the Year and then not really pan out from there in the same way. And I'm not going to compare these two players in terms of like what they're going to be for their careers or even how they play. But like we can think back to like Robert Griffin III wins Offensive Rookie of the Year his first year in Washington, and it looks like the next biggest, greatest thing. And then injuries and stuff. And again, like I'm not saying Jayden Daniels is going to be RG3. I think they're very different in a lot of the things they do. But the point just being like rookie phenoms do not always sustain success for a variety of reasons. And rookies who struggle don't always stay bad for a variety of reasons. And it's tricky because we've seen enough bad young quarterbacks in Chicago that never become good that we're scared when we have another quarterback who doesn't have a great rookie season. But I think you're allowed to give him one bad year or one down year, or whatever you want to categorize Caleb Williams' first season. But then year 2 is when you got to really figure it out. And we're seeing that from Caleb now. We're seeing that from Drake Maye now. And vice versa for Jayden Daniels and Bo Nix. They had a great rookie season. Doesn't mean you have to be great right away in year 2, but like the NFL catches up and you got to then have the counter to the counter, right? Like they see you on tape, they figure out what you do well, they react to it. Can you counter to how they're countering you? And that's on, their coaching staffs and the quarterback to be able to work through all those things. And, Drake Maye and Caleb Williams are going to run into those same obstacles themselves. Like as they start playing more and more, teams are going to figure out what works against them, and you're going to have to adapt and overcome and be greater than it. And that's the fun part of quarterback development and watching this stellar quarterback class go. I mean, this is a group of young quarterbacks that we are all going to be collectively talking about for a decade. And they might not all make it a decade. I mean, we'll see what happens with J.J. McCarthy. And I really haven't mentioned Michael Penix right now just because he just hasn't really been, and he's not been bad, but he's just not been great. I'm not trying to just dump on the guy, but like it's very clearly not in the same conversation as some of these other top quarterbacks from the draft class. But even him, like we could see another year or so from now or whenever it is, all of a sudden, Atlanta gets the right receivers in there, the right coach, or something just clicks for him, and he could jump right back up into this conversation. And same with J.J. McCarthy, that we've absolutely not seen nearly enough J.J. McCarthy to make any kind of sweeping evaluation about him. A game and a half, we don't know. He might turn out to still be great. He might not ever be good. We shall see. And that's what's going to be fun to watch all throughout this process for all these quarterbacks. We'll keep close tabs on, obviously, Caleb Williams' development, but we'll check back in periodically on some of these guys that he's going to be compared to forever in his own draft class, right here on the Locked On Bears podcast. So make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're looking for a second listen today, be sure to go check out the Locked On NFL podcast for more football talk. It comes out twice a day, once in the morning with Tyler Rowland, and then again in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins in the barbershop, bringing you all the biggest stories from Football Sunday, and then tomorrow they'll break down the Monday Night Football game and so much more. So go check out Locked On NFL for your second listen. Coming back tomorrow to Locked On Bears, make us your first listen once again for another opportunity to bear down.